Today I'm showing you guys some tips that'll help make your 808 patterns more interesting. If you have 808s in your beat and they sound flat and uninteresting, I'm showing you guys some things that you can do to help take your beat to the next level. So first up is the technique that I like to call the slow glide. This is something that I like to do whenever I have a beat that isn't particularly melodic or dense and the 808 is going to be taking up a lot of room in the beat. For example, I have this beat here. There's not much going on in the beat, as you guys can see. There's only a couple of percussion loops and my drums playing, so it's not a very dense beat. So the 808 is going to end up taking a lot of room up in the beat and also drive the melody of the beat as well. And so if the 808 is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the beat, it's very important that we actually make the 808 as interesting as possible. So let's say, for example, this is the 808 pattern that I came up with. So in order to make this pattern a little bit more interesting, I'm going to take it from this pattern here to this one here. Now this might seem like there's a whole lot of nonsense going on in this pattern, but I'm going to explain exactly what I'm doing here. So a lot of the times when people use slides in their 808s, it's just to get from one note to another. So to do a quick overview of slides, what's happening here is I have my main note playing here at a C. And when I add a slide here, it's going to end up going to an F sharp. Now it's going to start going up to an F sharp as soon as this note starts playing. And it's going to finish getting to an F sharp as soon as the note ends. So the first portion of this note here, it's just going to play at a C for this entire duration here. And as soon as we get here, it's going to start moving up towards an F sharp. And as soon as we get to this point here, that's when we get to an F sharp. This technique that I'm doing over here, it's a bit different. We don't really want the 808 note, for example, this C sharp here, to actually move to an F or an A sharp. What we're doing is slowly moving the pitch of the note around, but ultimately wanting it to stay relatively close to where we started. So again, the way slide notes work is we're going to start moving towards a new note as soon as the slide note starts. So for example, we're going to be going from a C sharp to an F starting here. And it's going to end up at an F once we hit the end of the note, which is all the way over here. But by then the 808 is actually going to stop playing. As well, we have an additional slide layered on top as well. You guys can see down here. We're also saying that we want the note to go down to an A sharp as well. Whenever you have multiple glides stacked on top of each other, whichever glide plays last is what FL Studio will actually do. So what's happening here is I'm playing this note at a C sharp. Once we get to this point, it's going to start slowly moving to an F. But by the time we get here, it's going to move back down to an A sharp. But it's actually not ever going to get into an A sharp because the note actually ends way earlier than this slide ends. So you guys can hear the 808 actually ends around here. And so by the time that the note actually ends, we're not actually at an A sharp, we're probably somewhere in between. Now how much the pitch actually fluctuates depends on two different things. What the slide note is, for example, if I took this F and I moved it up an octave, you guys can hear it goes up in pitch a lot more. As well, if I decrease the slide time, you guys can hear the original C sharp ended up going a lot higher in pitch. Now the reason why is because FL Studio knows I have to get all the way up to an F by this time here. And so instead of taking this entire time, if I extended it all the way over here, to slowly move up into an F by the time we reach this point here, FL Studio knows it has to go all the way up in pitch by the time we hit the end of this note, and so it's going to go up a lot quicker. And the exact same pattern is happening with all of my other notes. It's going to go up a little bit and then down. Now obviously I could switch this up if I wanted to, if I brought this one down here and I brought this note up here. What's going to happen is it's going to play downwards a little bit initially and then go upwards. And again, depending on how long the actual slide note is and what it is, that's going to dictate how exaggerated or how extreme our pitch changing is going to be. So in this instance, the second note here, what happened was we went down a tiny bit. Again, this would have turned into a B by the time we got all the way over here, but this second slide note took precedence. And so we went down a tiny bit and then we went all the way up to a G sharp. This sounds a little bit too extreme. It doesn't sound that great. So if I lengthen this note and I bring it down, it's going to sound like it fits in a little bit better. So again, this is how our 808 pattern would sound without all of this sliding. With all the sliding. Again, it's just a small layer of detail that's going to help bring your 808 a little bit more flavor and just make it a little bit more interesting in the beat. Alternatively, we can use another function to help create this sense of movement with our 808 as well. We can edit the events of the 808 and modulate the pitch from there. For example, I have this plain 808 here. What I'm going to do is go into the piano roll, go into the events section down here, change this to channel pitch. Now I can start playing around with the pitch of the 808 from here as well. For example, the pattern that I drew here is going to start with a regular pitch. You guys can see in the top left corner here, it tells you exactly where you are in terms of the overall pitch of the sound. And I drew this pattern in to decrease the pitch of the 808 as we go on. And again, you can draw any pattern that you want. The crappy part about this technique is that you'd have to draw it for every single 808 that you came up with, for example, and then you'd have to mimic whatever you did come up with. That's kind of difficult. So one of the things that you could do is just go into the mixer, click ARM disc recording, go into the mixer options, disc recording, render to wave files, hit start. And now you have that exact same 808 with the pitch modulation already baked in. So you can create a pattern that had this exact same modulation over and over again. So the next technique, I have this beat here with a different 808 pattern. Another technique that you can use on your 808s is using portamento. What this will do is give that same sliding effect, but with every single note in your 808 pattern. Each of these notes is going to end up gliding into one another. So to do that, what you need to do is go open your 808, go into the miscellaneous functions, and enable portamento. So you guys can hear how it sounds now. So without portamento, each of these notes played at their exact right pitches instantaneously as soon as the note hit. But when we enable portamento, you guys can hear they sort of glide into one another. But you guys can hear the slides feel very exaggerated for certain notes and not for others. So the slide between the A sharp here and the F sharp here was pretty exaggerated, and also from the F sharp back down to the B was pretty exaggerated. But these notes over here, they glided into each other pretty well. So the reason why this is happening is if you go back into the sample here, this slide knob here dictates the speed at which the glide is going to last. So if we bring it down, you guys can hear, it feels a lot more quick. But if we bring it up, you guys can hear, that's when we get that super exaggerated slide that just takes a little bit too long for my own tastes. So what we can do in this situation is create an automation clip with the slide and help control how long each of these notes takes to slide into one another. So for example, with this note here, I want to bring the slide knob down just so it gets into this note a lot quicker and it doesn't take forever to actually slide in. As well as this one over here, it just takes a little bit too long to get from the F sharp to the B. So with this section here of the 808 pattern, I'm going to decrease the slide to be a little bit more of a reduced amount and then bring it back up for this section here. So I'm going to go into my automation, bring this value down here, and then I'll bring it back up afterwards. So that sounds a lot better to me. It's not as distracting. It just feels a little bit more fluid and controlled. And there you have it, a few techniques that you can use on your 808 patterns to make them a little bit more interesting and unique. It's just a good way to bring a small amount of detail into your beat that would just otherwise not exist. It's these small types of compounding levels of details that will really bring your beat quality up in time. If you guys have your own 808 tips and techniques that you like to use, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you want to download my free drum kit, it is available in the description box below. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday.